Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God in Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shrivatam Swakata Krishna,
Shrinvatam Sakata Krishna,
Punyashravana Kirtanaha,
Punyashravana Kirtanaha,
Vidyantastoya Bhadrani,
Vidyantastha Bhadrani,
Vidunoti Suritsatam,
Vidunoti Suritsatam.
Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly enchanted. Nashta prayeshu badreshu,
Nashta prayeshu badreshu,
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke,
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke,
Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtiki,
Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. I either have fine brain tissues and no sinus trouble. Drink milk for finer brain tissues, and then I get sinus. So we have a reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Punishment and Reward of Kali. We're on text 7. I'm going to read it from the phone. It's easier. Twam Va Mrinala Davala Twam Va Mrinala Davala Padaya Niuna Pada Charan Padaya Niuna Pada Charan Vrisha Rupena Kim Kaschid Vrisha Rupena Kim Kaschid Devo Na Parikedayan Devo na Parikedayan Twamba Mrinala Devala Padayanyuna Padacharan Vrisha Rupena Kim Kaschid Devo na Parikedayan Twamba Mrinala Davala Padayanyuna Padacharan Vrisha Rupena Kim Kaschid Devo na Parikedayan I guess it's sort of like 2.5 because I want to do the wordings of the one line. Should I do another one or are you ready to go? Do another one? Go.
Twamba Mrinala Devala maybe I wasn't ready. Padayanyuna Padacharan Visharupena Kim Kaschid Devo na Parikedayan Twamba Mrinala Davalaha Padayanyuna Padacharan Vrisharupena Kim Kaschid Devo na Parikedayan
Twamba Manala Devalaha Padayanyuna Padacharan Asharupane Kim Kaschid
Visharupena Kim Kaschid
Devo na Parikedayan
Devo na Parikedayan
Twamba
Mrinala Davala Padayanyuna Padacharan Visharupena Kim Kaschid Devo na Parikedayan Twamba Mrinala Davala Padayanyuna Padacharan Visharupena Kim Kaschid Devo na Parikedayan Twamba Mrinala Davala Padayanyuna Padacharan Visharupena Kim Kaschid Devo na Parikedayan
Twam Tvam,
Tvam,
you, Va,
Va,
either, Mrinala Devala,
Mrinala Devala,
Davala. Have I been saying Devala?
Davala,
Dava.
As white as a lotus,
as white as a lotus,
Padai,
Paradise
of 3 legs,
of 3 legs,
Nyuna,
Nuna,
being deprived,
being deprived,
Pada,
Pada,
on 1 leg,
on 1 leg,
Charan,
Charan,
moving,
moving,
Vrisha,
Risha,
Bo,
Bull,
Rupena,
Rupena,
in the form of,
in the form of
Kim,
Kim,
weather,
weather,
Kaschit,
Kapsit,
someone,
someone,
Devaha,
Deva,
demigod, Naha,
Naha,
us,
us,
Harike Dayan,
Dayan,
causing grief.
Hardly grief.
Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Then he, Maharaj Parikshit, asked the bull, "Oh, who are you? Are you a bull as white as a white lotus? Or are you a demigod? You have lost 3 of your legs and are moving on only 1. Are you some demigod causing us grief in the form of a bull?" Please repeat. Then he, Maharaj Parikshit,
Maharaj Parikshit,
asked the bull,
Ask the bull,
"Oh, who are you?
who are you?
Are you a bull as white as a white lotus?
are you a bull as white as a white lotus?
Or are you a demigod?
Or are you a demigod?
You have lost 3 of your legs
You have lost 3 of your legs,
and are moving on only 1.
and are moving on only 1.
Are you some demigod causing us grief
Are you some
Demigod
demigod
causing us grief
in the form of a bull?"
in the form of a bull?
Purport. At least up to the time of Maharaj Parikshit, no one could imagine the wretched conditions of the cow and the bull. Maharaj Parikshit, therefore, was astonished to see such a horrible scene. He inquired whether the bull was not a demigod, assuming such a wretched condition to indicate the future of the cow and the bull. And because that's really brief, I'm going to read the next one too. Najatu Kora Vendranam Dordanda Parirampite Bhutale Nupatan Diasmin Menate Praninam Shuchaha. Now, for the first time, in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence. So the purport is, the protection of the lives of both the human beings and the animals is the first and foremost duty of a government. A government must not discriminate in such principles. It is simply horrible for a pure-hearted soul to see organized animal killing by the state in this age of Kali. Maharaj Parikshit was lamenting for the tears in the eyes of the bull, and he was astonished to see such an unprecedented thing in his good kingdom. Men and animals were equally protected as far as life was concerned. That is the way in God's kingdom.
Anjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
I was born in the darkness of ignorance, the spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances in the hand. So I wanted to do these together just to give a little bit more of a broad area to talk about. The first one's pretty narrow, but one thing I wanted to do is give a picture. As an artist, I sometimes try to illustrate scenes in the Bhagavatam, and this one will be a challenge. It will be really cool in a way. Pretty striking, beautiful painting, because you have a bull and a cow as white as lotus flowers, pure white, bull and cow. You have Maharaj Parikshit's beautiful matching black horse team. You have a golden boss chariot, and you have 2 persons dressed as kings. One of them really is royal, and one of them is not at all qualified. And he's now shrinking in fear. So this is a dramatic scene to paint. But the difficulty is this bull moving about on 1 leg. Okay, so I see like scooching around with 1 leg propping up one part of him. That's how they usually paint it. But Maharaj Parikshit asked if he was a demigod, and it says he's moving about on 1 leg only. Perhaps he was more than we picture that a regular cow would be if missing 3 legs. So he was moving about but standing on one leg. Anyway, it's a very difficult picture to figure out how one would illustrate it. But somehow this bull has 3 legs missing and he's moving about on one leg. And such that Maharaj Prisha asked if he was a demigod. And note that immediately Maharaj Prisha started talking to him. Normally, one doesn't start talking to a cow and a bull, even if they are mistreated. So there's something different, mystical, different definition about this experience. And I suppose it's possible it's allegorical, but Prabhupada isn't really treating it that way. He's treating it like a real scene. So I think we're supposed to take it that way. So some of these events are real, and they're created as allegorical events to teach. Also, this happens all the time in the scriptures. So the events are there, and they have allegorical meaning, but they're real events. So these are like dramatic moments in history, and the change of the age, or a major thing being taught, or something like that. And but it's a real event. So this is Prabhupada treats it like a real event, so we will treat it like a real event. But it would be difficult to figure out how to illustrate it, but somehow Maharaj Prisha knew that he could talk to this common bull, whereas normally we would not do that. So that's an interesting thing. And this bull and cow, this bull is as white as a white lotus, which is extra pure white. Very, very beautiful. And since these are demigods in the form of a cow and bull, they would be, the white cows of India, the white zebu cows and bulls are extraordinarily beautiful anyway. They are, I don't understand, Prabhupada asked the devotees which is the most beautiful animal, and they said the cow, and he said, no, the horse. But my gosh, some of these cows are more beautiful than horses. Some of the white kind of the delicate bones and beautiful horns and the lovely eyes are very beautiful. And these two are even more so, more beautiful, because they are demigods. And so here's the scene. And it is, the first verse is, how does it say? Are you some demigod causing us grief in the form of a bull? Now, the way that's worded, Prabhupada explains in the purport, the way he explains it, he says he inquired where the bull was not a demigod, assuming such a wretched condition to indicate the future of the cow and the bull. So it's not like the bull and the cow are trying to cause us trouble, but indicating trouble. And of course it causes grief, because then you see what's going to happen. And more I read this, the first time I read it years ago, I kind of responded to it allegorically, and it was very confusing, because I thought, how could this really be? And it seemed like it was in different dimensions, and it was very confusing, and I took it as symbolic of the age of Kali, of all the things wrong, because I didn't fully realize how central the cow and the bull are to a proper Vedic civilization. So now, after many years and living on a farm and studies and so on, studying Varnashram and everything, it's slowly penetrating my Western conditioned brain how central the cow and the bull are. So simply by the condition of the cow and the bull in the age of Kali, that's the age of Kali, because everything comes from that. All the bad karma, all the insensitivity, all the different ways people treat each other, etc., profit seeking, all the things about the age of Kali, irreligion, so on. It's all centered on. Well, it can be analyzed as centered on the treatment of the cow and the bull. So this is very literal and very important to understand these verses here. And it's describing the condition. The cow and the bull are actually exhibiting the condition of all the cows and bulls in modern society. Quite literally. And we grow up in the West not understanding this. And it says in a previous verse that killing an animal in a secluded place is like killing a child in a secluded place. And of course, all the slaughterhouses are secluded. They don't want the public to see because the public might stop eating meat. And so actually people, many times, people who have gone on tours or seen videos and really see, then they oftentimes do give up eating meat because it's so horrible. Where it says, which is, could not imagine. At least up to the time of Maharaj Pariksha, no one could imagine the wretched condition of the cow and the bull. You know what? At least up to, it says at least up to, but even now, unless you see a video or a road visit or something, you can't imagine the conditions of the cows and bulls and what they go through, the horrors of it. You can't imagine. And I recently discovered another assumption, subconscious assumption I was carrying around, that the meat isn't really the cows, it's the steers. It's the young males. Assumption that I had, because that's kind of how they present it. Because they don't want people thinking about, oh, this could be the mother that gave me milk. You know, they don't want people to make that connection. So they present it as only steers. But you know what? The cows go too. As soon as they stop giving milk, they go too. And so that's sort of penetrated my brain lately too. So these things are really important to bring out openly and talk about and know, because people do not know. Even once we join the movement, we hear that it's terrible to slaughter cows, but we grew up so conditioned to that being normal that we need to keep hearing it, and we need to grow in the realization that actually this is a terrible crime going on. It's actually a terrible crime. And when you see all the other terrible crimes people do to each other, and the terrible wars and war crimes, and the way modern warfare is going on so that everybody gets bombed and not just the warriors, etc. These are karmic, because everybody is eating meat. And although it would be better if everybody grew their meat animals in nice pastures, gave them a happy life until the last moment, that would be better. And sometimes people try to do that, small isolated. And my sister and her husband, they do that. They give a nice little life to the animal before they kill it, okay? But that would be sort of like having kids and give them a nice childhood and a happy teenage years, and then someday when they don't expect it, that's the end. And of course, we know that's horrible because they still want to live. So we have to realize that's horrible for the animals too. But it's better than a whole life of suffering. It is better. It shows some sensitivity. So, I forgot where I was going with this. Karma. To understand that most people are eating meat killed from industrial slaughterhouses, industrial farms, they call them industrial, as if the animals are just machines or substances that you grow, and it's industrialized. So most people in the world that are eating meat are eating like that, and at least in modernized societies. So the karma that comes back, we feel so horrified at the bad things that happen to people and the bad things that people do to people. So we need to understand that this is karma, and it's normal considering what's done to the cow. So the point is here, this cow and the bull Prabhupada is treating it as a real event. It also has the power of symbolism, of metaphor, for the whole of Kali Yuga, that a cow and the bull are the central point. So if we can turn it around, so that the cows and bulls are not killed, if we can, vegetarianism, then we will go, it will be a long ways toward. Prabhupada didn't say, he said not to preach vegetarianism, that would come naturally if you preach that you offer everything to Krishna, and these are the things you offer to Krishna. But it has to be part of the whole package. But still, people get influenced and they give up meat as time goes on, even though they don't surrender to the idea of offering to a blue god, but they give up eating meat. Somehow this is permeating society anyways, more and more. So, other point is men and animals were equally protected as far as life is concerned. That is the way in God's kingdom. Nowadays, You know, if a person feels some limitation in their movement, whether by poverty or by, it could be house arrest or it could be some political situation or something like that, or maybe martial law or something like that. You get to do some things, but not everything. People don't like it. You know, we don't like it. It's a limitation of freedom. We should be able to do what we need, get what we need. And nowadays, the only way to protect cows and bulls is to limit them somewhat like that. They get a nice pasture, but one nice pasture. Maybe they get rotated. So day after day after day, eating the same pasture, then maybe they get rotated to another pasture, day after day after day, all fenced in. Because it's not safe for them to go out. Around here, if we were to let our cows wander around and find their grass, all they have to do is go one lot further down in the road and big trouble. So they have to be fenced in. And in the ideal kingdom in those days, they weren't even fenced in. They could go where they want. In fact, they could go around town and beg treats, just like a dog might, just like our dog did. Go around town and beg treats. And cows were pets of everybody. And cows could go where they wanted to go in a sense of freedom, not fences. And now even to protect the cows, we have to fence them in and limit their freedom. And they're like us. They don't like limitations either. It's interesting. I've heard that cows will follow a fence around looking for a way out in any pasture. I've heard that, and they make a path around the fence, checking out, looking for a way out. Now, I have not seen these cows do it. Apparently, they are happier cows. Maybe they don't sense that there's anything to be afraid of. And maybe the cows I heard of are cows that, you know, raised by meat eaters, and so they can smell that there's something to be afraid of. So these cows, they don't seem to be like desperate to find a way out. But cows will do that in a lot of situations. They will go walk all the way around the fence and look for any weak point or any way out. They will check it out just in case they can get out, because they want their freedom. So, to treat them, we don't, by our Western conditioning, to me, it's taken me a long time to realize the full implications, even though as a child I thought about vegetarianism a little bit, and as a young adult I thought about it, and then as a devotee I've been a vegetarian for like over 3 decades, and still it's penetrating slowly the full meaning of equal treatment to the animals and the people. Penetrate slowly because of conditioning. So we have to just keep presenting it and presenting it and presenting it, the equal treatment, that animals are also souls just like us. So, anything else I wanted to say? The protection of the lives of both the human beings and the animals is the first and foremost duty of the government. So what we have nowadays, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And they protect some people, maybe not others. Don't protect animals. Well, some animals, you could, if you deliberately harm a dog, you could, I don't know, go to jail or something. But if you deliberately harm a cow, well, you get a profit, and you're considered a good businessman. So, and they have invented this term, humane slaughter. Better than other kinds maybe, but not much better. And the cows, and the cow and the bull have tears in their eyes because they really have feelings. Just like we have tears in our eyes when terrible things happen. So this is these are important verses for full realization, unless we get it brought to, because this killing goes on in secluded places, unless we have it brought to our attention, the verses like this, and also people who care in the world who get videos or something and post them, so that we know what's happening. It's horrible to see, but we need to know this is happening. So, anyways, I think I'll stop here. Is there any? Oh, yeah, 2 hands up. You're first.
It's interesting, the statement that Prabhupada wanted us to teach and preach offering to Krishna, not just vegetarianism. Because if we find you teach vegetarianism, a person could say, well, I could do that better. I want to eat any animal product. So they have this vegan is superior to vegetarianism.
Yeah.
And the teaching is that Krishna accepts and actually likes milk products and things like that.
Yeah.
So if we just teach vegetarianism, then we could be outdone by one better. How about no milk products?
Well, the full vegan idea is the pita idea, and anything you use an animal for is wrong. Animals cannot be used for anything. They can't work, they can't be useful, they can't anything. They just have to just be totally useless and live their life happily. But a lot of animals might become too expensive and have to be, you're not protecting the animal by doing that. So
the second point was that it's interesting that the first and foremost duty of a government is to protect life, animal or human. And I think it was mentioned Modi, the Prime Minister of India, Modi. He was very upset about any cow slaughter, and I think he even went to the point, if they kill cows, they should be killed. I was like, what?
Not a popular statement in the modern world.
I think he said that.
Yeah, something.
He said something like that. And it was like, the justice. But the statements that Prabhupada was saying about this industry, organized, because the Vedic system allowed Kshatriyas to go off into the forest and take deer and things like this, but animals in the wild, but not an actual industrialized, organized method of killing.
I recently read there was some king. What story was this? Sometimes you read around here and there too much, and I can't remember where you read something. But there was a king who, it was Muchukunda, right? He was the king who was sleeping for so long, and then he woke up and he burned to ashes Talavana for waking him up. And then Krishna was there in his Narayan form, and he explained to him that you need to go and purify yourself or something for a while, meditate, your whole family's gone, everything's gone, and purify yourself, because as a Kshatriya, you did some killing of animals and people, I guess, and you have to, meditate and purify yourself. So just because the Kshatriyas and perhaps the Shudras are allowed to eat meat in the system doesn't mean it's wholly okay. They still have to get purified from that. So, and they have to do it according to regulations, and they still have to get purified. So even though Muchukunda was seeing Lord Narayan, standing Krishna, and the form of Narayan standing right before him, now who gets to see that? But he was told to go and meditate on something like that and purify himself. I'm sure that was the story I read that in. And because he had done some necessary killing, so he needed to purify himself. So, anyway, I saw Kaivalya's hand up.
Oh yeah, I thought it was interesting how in the purport of Prabhupada was explaining that even, or maybe it was the verse, that no human or animal in the past had any reason to cry or any reason for tears.
It said because of royal negligence. Other reasons, yeah, but not because of royal negligence. Because supposing there's a war and the warriors get killed, the wives are going to cry, But not because of royal negligence. Is that your whole point? Is that your whole?
Yeah. Can you read that part one more time?
I didn't do this one. Didn't I just read that?
Yeah.
I can't see it.
The second one.
Oh, I was looking at the purports in the verse. Okay. I see you. I'll read the whole one against text 8. Now for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence. And that would mean that includes untimely death. That it's like, that Brahmana in Krishna's time he was angry because his children died, and that should not have been under a good king. So, and Arjuna actually vowed to protect the last child, and then when that failed, Krishna took Arjuna. Arjuna said he would step in the fire, but Krishna said, wait, we're not done yet. And Arjuna went, and they went all up to Mahavishnu and brought back the children who had been taken. So there weren't supposed to be, it wasn't royal negligence. It wasn't actually royal negligence. But the Brahmana whose children died thought it was royal negligence. So even including that, seasons were right and health was right and so on. So many things were right. Yeah.
It's just amazing to hear that. I mean, that we're so conditioned to the abnormal. But you were pondering how they spoke. But I was also thinking about when Krishna and Balaram went to Gurukula, they learned the language of animals.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether they were speaking in
That's true.
The human tongue, or maybe they were speaking in
It's possible. Maybe Maharaj Parikshit knew the language of animals. Or maybe he would have asked any cow what happened to you. I don't know. It's possible.
But the other thing is, Prabhupada would say, why can't they just wait till he dies? In other words, don't kill him.
Oh, for the meat.
If you're going, like in India, there is a class, they call the muchi, I think. The cobblers, and they use the skin for the shoes. And they sometimes eat the flesh, but the cow has to die, or any animal has to die in natural causes.
Nowadays, people are taught to be afraid of the disease or something. There might be a disease or something, so they're afraid of that, I guess. I guess that's what they're taught. That's how people are taught.
I mean, I'm not recommending it,
No.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But that,
Yeah. Yeah, it would be better, but people are afraid, that might be diseased. They're afraid
well,
of it.
it probably also, the meat might be not as.
Yeah, kind of thinner, and, because you get older, you get, yeah. When would you choose next? You done?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually my middle name too.
Your middle name is done?
Yeah, my mother's maiden name is done.
Actually, I think, well, Larry had his hand up and he didn't speak yet. Did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Srila Prabhupada is, from what we understand, Krishna's commander-in-chief. He came here to teach us Krishna consciousness and was inspired by his spiritual master to come to the West specifically to teach us. His impression of coming to the West after growing up in India, a pure devotee, and not being exposed to any kind of organized murder. He comes to the West and he sees all of this advertising and actual live stories from devotees about how they're butchering the cow in a very organized manner. And read the second verse, the purport, I think it's the second sentence.
And it's the third sentence. It is simply horrible for a pure-hearted soul to see organized animal killing by the state in the age of Kali. That one?
So yeah, he's not talking about Maharaj. He's talking about his own experience. Mm-hmm. And it really struck me very pointedly that he's revealing his mind that how horrible it is for a pure devotee to come here to render some service for Krishna and to be exposed to that kind
The
of
thing is
environment.
that he hadn't come yet when he wrote that.
Huh?
He wrote that while he was in India.
That's right. This is the first canto.
So in the first 3 volumes were translated in India.
Well, they probably had some. I mean, the Muslims were not
Yeah, that could be what it
so they
was.
probably had some,
Yeah,
yeah.
so anyway, that, I imagine that was pretty horrible to come
Yeah.
from Goloka and be confronted with this.
Yeah, it's one thing, like, I grew up, my grandfather raised chickens. And once or twice as a little child, I watched him do the thing, and kill the chicken. And pluck it and all this kind of stuff. And that's bad enough, you feel sorry for the chicken and everything. And he had a duck named Oswald, and one year we had Oswald for Thanksgiving, and nobody felt right about that. Even though because Oswald had a name, and the chickens didn't have a name, but that's bad enough. But the animals had normal animal life up to that point. It wasn't like nowadays. We really, truly can't imagine until we see a video or something what the animals are going through, even if we hear a word description of how the chickens are packed in cages. It doesn't penetrate the same way when you see it. So now we have these videos, and people are actually having to smuggle videos that, have become against the law. And the state is supporting this. It's against the law now, but people still somehow manage to do that. They smuggle out some video on their phone or something, and they put it on the internet. And so people can see what's happening. And so hopefully it penetrates enough people's minds to think, well, maybe I shouldn't participate in this. A lot of people are just blocking it out and doing it anyways, which makes the sin worse. But then you can sort of understand psychologically, I'm not ready for change. I don't want to see that. It's not my fault. I was taught this way. I see nothing, So yeah, I have a little compassion for people in that situation, like my family. But it's better if you had your own barnyard, and you do. But nowadays it's so much more horrible, but people don't see it. Anyways, the more people see it, the more because people can't imagine how bad it is unless they see it. So the more people see it, the more vegetarianism is growing. So it's natural for humans to. A normal human being will feel something when they see a tremendous amount of suffering being inflicted. A normal human being will feel something. So, and most people are, there's few like sociopaths in society, certain percentage, but most people,
Yeah, Hitler had problems with his soldiers because they couldn't tolerate what his orders were.
And some of it wasn't Hitler's orders, I'm starting to understand.
Whoever was in charge of them,
yeah.
it's just they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Even soldiers who are just in battle. My father, he couldn't even watch these John Wayne movies because it was so sanitized. And he thought it made it look too romantically wonderful. And he had been through the horrors of it. And he just was so disturbed by any kind of things that romanticize war or fighting, of that kind, of that nature.
Yeah. People generally don't know, and people generally do not know that it all centers on the cow. People just can't believe this could be true. That it all comes from the way the cow and bull are treated. This is the center point of the punishment and reward of Kali. What is the previous one? How Parikshit received the age of Kali. The age of Kali came in the form of mistreating the cow and the bull. It's so central. Yes, Pedro.
And it's ironic that, like when you watch the documentary Cowspiracy, it's ironic and not ironic. It's actually brings home the point that the whole, all these clubs like Sierra Club, the ones that are funded by the government, the meat industry, they can't legally, or they can't put their net on the chopping block because they know they'll either be killed themselves or they'll lose their job or something if they come right out and say it. But that is this boy took a chance. And one of the ex meat farmers was saying, son, you should know that you're putting your neck on the chopping block just by doing what he said, go for it, because people need to know. But it's ironic, not ironic, but I'm saying the point is, it's being said here that this is worst thing you can do, and it's the worst thing for the planet, obviously, because it's become a business, agriculture business, where they're cutting down all the trees, and that's preventing the proper elements in the atmosphere and all that. So it's like completely destroying our planet. Not just that it's the wrong thing to do karmically. It has its repercussions.
It's not only the center of the age of Kali and the wars and all the things that are. It's also the center of the climate change and everything, because it's such a quantity concentrated of this horrible thing.
Yeah, according to that documentary she mentioned, is that it's not fossil fuel is a small portion compared to what the methane from all the animals that are having to be raised to feed this, and these people are like they tell us that this people get assassinated, killed. A nun was killed in Brazil.
South America.
They're speaking out about it. This is a very serious organization.
A lot of money.
And even certain things that there was the time when Oprah Winfrey had said something about
mad cow disease. She said she wasn't going to eat meat anymore because of mad cow disease.
And she got in trouble and was sued. But right now, and there was a man who had, it wasn't a raised cow, and the things that he said then, he was sued by the big farm or whatever. He said, right now, if I say these things publicly, what I said then on her show, I can be arrested because it's like considered creating fear amongst the populace in the food production. It's like yelling fire in the theater. And they've actually passed a law that it's illegal to speak publicly about these things.
Terrifying. It's terrifying. Yeah.
And as you said before, it's against the law to even document it and bring it to the news.
Yeah, you can't even make a video. And
there was a lady in Michigan that would charter a small plane and take pictures of the CAFOs, and she can't do that anymore. She would be arrested, and if she did that to document it.
Not that having animals is a wrong thing, because they could be useful. They like to work and do useful things. This is where PETA has it wrong. And PETA, it's not a balanced presentation. And cowspiracy also is like against all having cows. But no milk cows. You can do, but just have small and local and treat them right and don't eat them. Just have as many as you need, only that you can support in a nice way, and have the oxen do useful things, that you treat them nice and train them, and they like to do useful things because they like to see that something's happening because I'm doing something. They sort of enjoy that. So, that's the whole balance picture. The whole balance picture, yeah.
That's the problem with Kali Yuga. The pendulum swings too far one way.
Yeah, too far one
if
way.
it can't go that way, it'll swing too far the other way. And you have veganism, paganism.
And then all of a sudden, if everybody became vegan, they'd have to kill a lot of cows because they couldn't afford to keep them. I don't know what they'd do with them, but they'd have to kill them. So sell them in China or something to increase China's name. Somehow, just to swing the other way, it doesn't solve. You have to find the balance that solves everything. And to have small local farms with the animals that can be maintained and do something useful without being eaten, without having to be eaten. Because nowadays, if you can't, like Gita Nagari is a problem, or everybody's criticizing Gita Nagari. I don't know how they're going to solve it ultimately, but they have, they're doing a dairy thing. A modern dairy thing. They're selling a lot of milk. But you have to keep breeding cows, and then you end up with some boy cows. And after a certain point, you can't breed any more cows because you can't support the males. You're not training them, not doing anything useful with them. You can't sell them because they'll be killed, so you have to support them. And you have to stop breeding because you can't support any of them, and then the cows will dry up, and then you have a herd of dry cows and untrained oxen. So this is what happened before in ISKCON, trying to compete with the modern dairies without doing what makes them viable, which is culling and killing anything unusable for milk. So you can't compete with them economically without killing. So eventually, there's a problem if you do like that. Yeah.
If there were a waiting list for the oxen, for
If a lot of people want oxen to train, yeah.
ox employment,
Yeah.
because ox unemployment is a problem too.
Then
Also,
you've got to feed them. They eat a lot. They take up space. They eat a lot. If you're not going to kill them, how can you afford them? It gets. I mean, I think I saw where even Prabhupada said, "You will kill them," because you can't afford them anymore. And that actually happened once in the movement. One farm, some president sold the cows because they couldn't afford to keep them, and sold them, and they got slaughtered. So that was a horrible thing, but it was lack of knowledge how to manage it correctly, probably. Lack of really thinking it through, maybe. Anyway, it happened, and Prabhupada said it would happen. And so you have to only breed the one what you're going to use. Only breed what you could use without having to kill them. You don't have to have a great quantity of milk. You don't have to. You don't have to have all that stuff. You can live as a vegan and get pretty much all your nutrition if you can't afford a cow. You don't have to partake of modern dairy thing. A lot of devotees want the temples have to because they have to present the milk-centered culture. But a lot of individual devotees living in the cities or something don't have cows, don't have access to ahimsa milk. They become vegans just on principle, like that, to not participate. Anything else?
Well,
Yeah, okay.
thank you for your class. I gotta go, but I want to give a little update of what we did yesterday. We had a good turnout. I expected 5 people, but I had 7. So we cleaned that whole outside out, especially Asika and Jesse. They even moved the woods and everything. So
Where is this?
this is Chakra House.
The what?
Chakra House.
Chakra House.
Okay, working on that. Okay.
Yeah, we remember I've been asking people to come help yesterday from 4 to 6.
Yeah.
In 2 hours, we cleaned the whole place up. And there are several places, and John especially named the team, Krishna Cleaning Team. So if anybody needs anywhere to be cleaned up, we will be there, the 7 of us. Jeff and April too, they just did so much.
They've heard that.
April and Jeff, is that it?
Yeah, they've heard it.
Yeah. So we luckily the inside and the outside is like really new, and Churupa and Brighton yesterday, he's going to go and clean weed back all the outside of it, Thank you very much for assisting to do that. That's all, yeah.
Very nice.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, yes.
The American way is to sanitize everything so that we are the best, etc. Or it appears that way. I came back from Vietnam and discovered how it is that they sanitize the returnees from overseas and war zones, etc. There's a debriefing that you all have to go to after you turn in all your fighting equipment and so forth, and you put on your civilian clothes or you put on your dress uniform, and you come to a debriefing where they tell you how you're not supposed to discuss anything that happened over there, etc. Because it's a breach of confidence when you discuss any particular techniques or particular actions that took place over there. You're sharing information that could be construed as supporting the enemy because that information couldn't get back to them. So there's a debriefing. In that process, they make it clear that no suffering on either side should be discussed. And basically, when an individual is exposed to what we were exposed to in the war zone, you don't really want to broadcast it. You're not necessarily favoring their sanitization concept, but it's not something that you want to dump on others that weren't necessarily prepared for something like that. And so all of the wars, when the military personnel come back, pretty much the real story doesn't get out. You hear about someone 80 years old on his deathbed telling his son what happened during the war, and you never had any idea that he went through this. Stories come out like that when it's a last resort, it's a last opportunity to share avoid your son going to war. Don't let him, he wants to, I heard that my grandson, your son, is thinking about joining the military. Don't let him do it, like that. So there's a lot of insulation of the community in general from war zones because of the experience that the soldiers have undergone. But there's also that tendency of those who haven't gone, that they have the mentality of like the three monkeys: see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. They don't want to hear about anything that's negative to their successfully being in bliss. They don't want any obstacles, and therefore they don't want to hear about these difficulties. But Prabhupada came here to point out, you're in a dangerous situation. And he's saying how disgusted he was to see the condition of organized slaughter. And people basing their lives off of a big spread on Sunday at their home, and everyone was invited, all their family members come, and they butcher a turkey or whatever. He was very out of place to be in a situation like that, and telling us that we have to understand what our real position is, what we're actually in the midst of. And so, yeah, we have to open our eyes, and it's not going to happen by seeing no evil.
It's just like talking about death. How come the Hare Krishnas always talk about death? Isn't that negative? Well, guess what? Everybody's going to die. Is that negative? So it's like making aware. And meat eating also. Meat eating isn't just something that tastes good. Mm-hmm. It's such a bag wrapped in plastic. It's animal killing. It's animal suffering. Mm-hmm. And even in the most ideal situation where the animal has a happy life in a nice barnyard and pasture and everything, and then all of a sudden it's over, you wouldn't want that to happen to yourself in the primal life. All of a sudden, well, you've had a happy life, so it's okay to kill you. Nobody wants that. Nobody likes that soldiers go to war after they had a happy childhood and have some promise in growing up and got good grades in school, and all of a sudden they go to war, or even bad grades in school because they really want to do something different with their life or whatever. But so they had, and then okay, they had a good life up to now, so it doesn't matter. That's not true. So. What was my beginning of thought? Anyways, to talk about this death and meat eating, which is another kind of death. It's all aspects of death, just to describe it so we get the reality of it. As we are, it's like me in a room of cotton. cotton balls for bricks, just everything's soft and nice because we don't talk about it. So the Hare Krishnas talk about it, and it's just truth. It's just truth. But people think we're being negative. Yeah.
It's not just vegetarianism, it's prashadanism. You're supposed to be eating prashad.
Yeah. Because we get something that, otherwise vegetarian, if you're a nice vegetarian all your life, then maybe you get a nice birth again where you might not choose to be vegetarian. Who knows what would happen then? And you would still go down. Because you might get a nice birth, you might get better karma, but then you might make bad choices. You got to get out of here. Because it's always death. Always death. Death all around us. I made a painting from, I don't know, class is over, I'm going to say. I made it some time ago, and I just fixed up the painting, made it look better. A little watercolor and ink painting of Hiranyakashipu was preaching to his mother and Hiranyaksha's wife. He was preaching to them told a story of a soldier, a warrior, a great warrior who was killed in battle, and his wives were grieving. And a Brahmana boy came and said, "Don't you see you're foolish, because each of you has your own death. Don't you see your own death?" So I made a picture of that. It's 3 grieving women around a fallen warrior, and behind them, the death figure standing behind each one. So death is everywhere. We need to understand death is here. It's in this room. It's following us around. We're each going to die. So, anyways, yeah, we talk about it openly to try to get the reality through. The whole point is to get the reality through. So, should we stop now? Thank you all very much for participating. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam.
Jai.